In the year 2587, humanity had spread across the stars, colonizing countless worlds. These interstellar expansions were fueled by ambition and necessity, driven by dwindling resources on Earth and an unquenchable thirst for discovery. But as humanity pushed outward, they found themselves in the path of the Galactic Empire, a force as ruthless as it was vast. The Empire, an ancient civilization steeped in conquest, dominated star systems with an iron grip. For decades, their campaign swept across the galaxy, silencing dissent and erasing civilizations that dared defy them. The Empire's arrival in the Sol system was marked by silence, a calm before the storm. Their emissaries came not with offers of peace but with ultimatums: submit to imperial rule or face annihilation. Earth, battered from centuries of internal conflict and hesitant unity, refused to bow. The defiance of humanity, though noble, only delayed the inevitable. The Empire had already deployed their most fearsome enforcers, the Boogeymen. On the morning of July 12th, colossal Imperial dreadnoughts breached Earth's atmosphere, their shadows stretching across New York City like harbingers of doom. Civilians fled in terror as the ships unleashed their payloads. Buildings crumbled under the weight of precision strikes, and infrastructure critical to Earth's defense disintegrated in plumes of fire and ash. But the terror didn't end there. From the dreadnoughts descended the Boogeymen, elite assassins cloaked in armor that seemed to absorb light itself. Their movements defied natural physics, swift and silent, with weapons that rendered even the most advanced human technologies useless. The Boogeymen were legends among the Empire's enemies, whispered about in hushed tones. Entire rebellions had fallen before them, their leaders executed without warning or trace. General Maria Cortez of the United Earth Defense Force, UEDF, stood at the helm of Earth's final bastion, the global command center buried deep beneath the Rockies. Holographic displays projected live feeds of the devastation, images of Boogeymen tearing through Earth's forces with clinical precision. Soldiers screamed as their weapons proved futile against the assassins, their countermeasures dismantled with ease. For every Boogeyman that fell, a dozen more appeared, each more terrifying than the last. They're targeting command centers, high-ranking officials, and key infrastructure, Maria's aide reported, his voice trembling as he highlighted red zones across the globe. We've never encountered anything like this. Maria's face was etched with grim determination. They're not just assassins, she murmured. They're psychological weapons. They're here to break us before the real invasion begins. General, what do we do? The aide asked, his voice breaking under the weight of panic. Maria didn't respond immediately. Her eyes scanned the holograms, searching for a solution amidst the chaos. The UEDF had prepared for alien invasions, simulations, countermeasures, even contingency plans for planetary evacuation. But none of it accounted for the Boogeymen. They were too fast, too coordinated, too ruthless. What's the status of our orbital defenses? Maria asked, turning sharply to her operations officer. Compromised, ma'am. The dreadnought shields are impervious to our weapons. We've lost control of the upper atmosphere. Maria's fist clenched. Every option seemed to lead to the same grim conclusion: Earth's annihilation. But then her gaze fell on a classified file, a name buried deep in the archives of Earth's darkest legends. John Wick. The file was marked with warnings. Highly classified. Do not engage. Lethal risk assessment. Extreme. Maria hesitated, her mind racing. The UEDF had moved past relying on individuals, embracing technological advancements and unified strategies. Yet, in this moment of desperation, she couldn't deny what she already knew. Conventional tactics had failed. It was time to call on a weapon of a different kind. Get me the Wick file, she ordered. Her staff exchanged uncertain glances, but none dared question her command. Moments later, a detailed dossier appeared on the central hologram. Images of Wick in action, grainy footage from long-forgotten wars, played alongside reports of his unparalleled skills. He was a myth, a ghost who had once been humanity's deadliest assassin. Wick had retired decades ago, vanishing into obscurity. Many believed he was dead. Those who didn't wished he were. Maria leaned closer, studying the footage of Wick dismantling entire squads with brutal efficiency. He moved like a predator, his eyes cold and calculating. If anyone could stand against the Boogeymen, it was him. General, her aide began cautiously. Are you sure about this? Wick's unpredictable. We don't even know if he's still alive. Maria straightened. Her decision made. If he's alive, we'll find him. And if he's willing to fight, he'll be our best chance. Across the stars, the Galactic Empire celebrated their impending victory. High Commander Thrax, a towering figure with crimson eyes and a voice like grinding metal, reviewed the reports from Earth with satisfaction. The humans crumble before us, Thrax declared to his officers. Their defenses are obsolete, their spirit weak. By the end of this cycle, Earth will kneel. Yet, even as Thrax reveled in his triumph, whispers of dissent began to ripple through the Empire's ranks. The Boogeymen had encountered resistance unlike anything they'd seen before. Isolated reports spoke of a shadow moving through the chaos, a force as deadly as the assassins themselves. The whispers grew louder, carrying a name the Empire would soon learn to fear. John Wick. John Wick had spent the last decade in solitude, living in a remote Alaskan outpost far from the chaos of interstellar politics. The cabin, nestled deep within snow-covered forests, was simple and unassuming. Inside, the walls were bare, save for a few photographs and a shelf filled with books on philosophy and history. Wick's days were spent in quiet reflection, tending to his dogs and carving small wooden figurines, a stark contrast to the life he had once led. For a man whose name had once inspired fear in the darkest corners of the galaxy, peace was a hard-earned reprieve. The knock at his door shattered that peace. Wick's hand instinctively went to the knife strapped to his belt. Few knew of his location, and fewer still would dare disturb him. He opened the door to find General Maria Cortez, flanked by 2 heavily armed UEDF soldiers. Behind them, a sleek military transport hummed quietly, its lights cutting through the snowstorm. "John Wick," Maria said, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. "We need your help." Wick's piercing gaze met hers, his expression unreadable. For a moment, there was only silence, the wind howling through the trees. "I'm retired," he replied, his voice cold and measured. "Not anymore," Maria said, stepping forward. She handed him a tablet. On it played footage of the Boogeymen, their brutal efficiency, their inhuman precision. The images were hauntingly familiar to Wick, a reflection of his own past. His eyes narrowed as he watched. "They killed my dog," he asked, his voice dripping with menace. Maria hesitated, unsure if he was joking. "They've killed thousands of dogs. And people. They'll kill millions more, unless we stop them." Wick set the tablet down, his expression hardening. Without another word, he moved to a hidden compartment beneath the floorboards. From it, he retrieved a dusty chest. Inside lay his weapons, sleek pistols, knives, and tools of death that had seen countless battles. He donned his suit, black as the void, and turned to Maria. "Let's get to work," he said. Maria briefed him during the flight back to UEDF headquarters. The Boogeymen weren't just assassins. They were symbols of fear, designed to break the spirit of entire civilizations. But Wick didn't need a lecture to understand them. He had been a boogeyman in his own right, once upon a time. As Maria outlined the mission, infiltrating Imperial supply lines, sabotaging their operations, and drawing out their leaders, Wick's mind was already calculating. Upon arriving at the Global Command Center, Wick was introduced to the team Maria had assembled. Among them were Sophia, a former assassin with a pack of combat-trained dogs, Marcus, a grizzled sniper who had fought alongside Wick in the past, and Zoe, a young hacker who had turned the Empire's own technology against them. Each brought unique skills to the table, and each looked to Wick as their leader. "We're outnumbered and outgunned," Marcus said during the briefing. "But with you here, I'd say the odds just got a hell of a lot better. Wick didn't respond. He didn't need to. His reputation spoke for itself. Their first mission was a raid on an Imperial outpost in the ruins of Los Angeles. The goal was simple: disrupt the Empire's communication network and gather intelligence on the Boogeymen's deployment. Wick led the charge, moving like a shadow through the battlefield. The Boogeymen, sensing his presence, descended in perfect unison. What followed was a brutal dance of death. Wick's movements were fluid and precise, his every action calculated. He adapted to the Boogeymen's advanced tactics, turning their strengths against them. By the end of the mission, the outpost was in ruins and the Boogeymen lay defeated. Wick stood amidst the wreckage, bloody but unbroken. The message was clear: Earth wasn't going down without a fight. The wreckage of Los Angeles smoldered under an ashen sky, the air thick with the acrid stench of burning metal and charred earth. John Wick stood at the epicenter of the destruction, his black suit singed and streaked with blood. None of it his own. The Boogeymen who had underestimated him lay scattered in twisted heaps, their once impervious armor now shattered. News of his success spread like wildfire, rekindling a spark of hope in the hearts of humanity. In the Global Command Center, General Maria Cortez reviewed the aftermath of Wick's mission with her senior staff. The holographic display showed footage of Wick in action, his movements a blur of lethal precision. For the first time since the invasion began, the room buzzed with cautious optimism. "We've confirmed the destruction of their communication hub," Marcus reported, his voice tinged with awe. "Their response time has slowed significantly." Maria nodded, her eyes fixed on the display. "And Wick? He's already planning the next strike," Marcus replied. "The man doesn't rest." Meanwhile, Wick and his team prepared for their next operation. The Imperial forces were regrouping, their commanders desperate to counter the growing threat. High Commander Thrax, infuriated by the loss in Los Angeles, deployed reinforcements to Earth, a fleet of smaller, more agile vessels, and an elite cadre of Boogeymen with orders to eliminate Wick at all costs. Unbeknownst to Thrax, Wick was already 2 steps ahead. With Zoe's hacking skills, the team had intercepted Imperial communications, gaining valuable intel on enemy movements. Their next target was an Imperial supply depot on the outskirts of Chicago, a critical hub for distributing weapons and resources to the front lines. Disabling it would cripple the Empire's ground operations. The mission was risky, but Wick thrived on impossible odds. As the team infiltrated the depot under cover of darkness, Wick's mind was a whirlwind of calculations. Every step, every breath, every pull of the trigger was deliberate. The Boogeymen guarding the depot were formidable, but Wick's experience and adaptability gave him the edge. Sophia's dogs wreaked havoc among the enemy ranks, while Marcus provided cover from a sniper's perch. Zoe, working from a remote location, disabled security systems and fed real-time updates to the team. The operation was a masterclass in coordinated warfare. By dawn, the depot was reduced to rubble, its supplies destroyed or confiscated. Wick and his team vanished into the shadows before reinforcements arrived, leaving behind a trail of devastation and a clear message: humanity would not go quietly. As victories mounted, Wick became a symbol of resistance, a rallying point for a fractured humanity. Civilians and soldiers alike found inspiration in his relentless determination. Across the globe, pockets of resistance sprang to life, striking back against the Empire with renewed vigor. Wick's legend grew, his name whispered in awe and defiance. In the Imperial capital, High Commander Thrax seethed with rage. Reports of Wick's exploits disrupted the Empire's carefully constructed narrative of invincibility. "One man," Thrax growled, his crimson eyes blazing. "One man is undoing centuries of Imperial dominance. How is this possible?" His advisors remained silent, their fear palpable. None dared voice the truth. Wick was no ordinary adversary. He was a force of nature, a storm that could not be contained. Thrax's frustration boiled over. "Send the Harbinger," he commanded, his voice a low snarl. The Harbinger was the Empire's deadliest weapon, a massive warship equipped with planet-destroying capabilities. It was an unmistakable statement of power and a direct challenge to Wick and humanity. Thrax intended to end the rebellion in one decisive strike. But Wick was ready. He had anticipated the Empire's escalation and prepared accordingly. With Maria's support, the UEDF mobilized its remaining forces for a final stand. The battle would take place in orbit above Earth, humanity's last line of defense against annihilation. As the Harbinger approached, Wick and his team boarded a captured Imperial transport, using stolen codes to infiltrate the massive warship. The plan was audacious. Disable the Harbinger from within and turn its weapons against the Empire. The infiltration was a brutal gauntlet. Wick and his team fought their way through endless corridors, facing waves of boogeymen and automated defenses. Each encounter pushed them to their limits, but they pressed on, driven by the stakes of their mission. Wick's resolve was unshakable, his every action a testament to his indomitable will. Finally, they reached the Harbinger's control center. Wick and Zoe worked together to override the ship systems, while Sophia and Marcus held off the relentless onslaught of enemy forces. The tension was palpable, every second a battle against time. As alarms blared and explosions rocked the ship, Wick activated the Harbinger's main weapon, targeting the Imperial fleet. "This is for Earth," he muttered, his voice a low growl. The weapon fired, a blinding beam of energy that tore through the Empire's ships. The fleet disintegrated in a cascade of fire and debris, the tide of the battle shifting in humanity's favor. The Harbinger, its systems overloaded, began to collapse. Wick and his team barely escaped aboard their transport, the warship detonating in a brilliant explosion that lit up the night sky. The Empire's forces, now leaderless and disorganized, retreated from Earth. The victory was hard-won, but it was a turning point, a declaration that humanity would not be subjugated. Wick, bloodied but unbowed, stood as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. In the aftermath, as Earth began to rebuild, Wick vanished once more into obscurity. His mission was complete, but his legend endured, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming darkness, one man could ignite a spark of hope. The Galactic Empire, realizing the threat John Wick posed, redirected its full might toward eliminating him. High Commander Thrax personally took command of the invasion, mobilizing fleets of dreadnoughts, legions of boogeymen, and advanced war machines. The skies above Earth became a battleground of fire and steel as dreadnoughts clashed, their weapons illuminating the void with bursts of energy. Humanity was outgunned, outnumbered, and on the brink of annihilation. Yet, for the first time in history, Earth's defenders stood united, driven by the hope Wick had inspired. Wick, now the spearhead of humanity's resistance, worked closely with General Maria Cortez and her team to plan a counteroffensive. Their target was the Empire's flagship, the Eclipse, a behemoth vessel that served as Thrax's command center. Taking the Eclipse would be a crippling blow to the Empire's morale and operational command. It was a desperate gambit, but Wick thrived on impossibilities. In the weeks leading up to the assault, Earth's engineers and scientists worked tirelessly to develop countermeasures against the Empire's technology. Zoe, the team's hacker, reverse-engineered stolen Imperial data to create a virus capable of disabling their advanced systems. Sophia trained her pack of combat dogs for zero-gravity combat, while Marcus honed his sniper skills for what he called the shot of a lifetime. Wick, ever meticulous, studied the Eclipse's schematics and devised a plan that relied on precision, timing, and sheer willpower. "This isn't just a mission," Wick told his team during their final briefing. "It's a statement. They think fear will break us, but we'll show them what humans are capable of when we refuse to kneel." The team's resolve was unwavering. They knew the risks, but they also understood the stakes. Failure meant extinction. Success meant survival. As the countdown to the operation began, Wick took a moment to himself, standing alone in the dimly lit hangar. He gazed at his weapons, his tools of destruction, and thought of the lives they would save. For the first time in years, he felt a sense of purpose beyond survival. The operation began under the cover of chaos. Earth's forces launched a massive assault on the Empire's fleet, drawing attention away from the small stealth ship carrying Wick and his team. The ship weaved through the battlefield, dodging explosions and debris as it approached the eclipse. Inside, the team was silent, their faces etched with determination. Approaching insertion point, the pilot announced. Wick checked his weapons one last time. "Let's finish this." The stealth ship docked undetected on the eclipse. Wick and his team disembarked, moving like shadows through the ship's labyrinthine corridors. Zoe deployed the virus, which spread through the eclipse's systems, causing chaos among the Imperial forces. Alarms blared and the lights flickered as the ship's automated defenses faltered. "Security grid down," Zoe reported. "You've got a clear path to the command center, at least for now." The team encountered resistance as they advanced. Boogeymen and Imperial soldiers engaged them in brutal firefights, but Wick led the charge with unparalleled efficiency. His movements were a blur of calculated violence, each strike precise and deadly. Sophia's dogs tore through enemies with primal ferocity, while Marcus picked off targets from impossible angles. Despite the odds, the team pushed forward, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. At the heart of the eclipse lay the command center, a sprawling chamber filled with holographic displays and Imperial officers. High Commander Thrax stood at its center, flanked by elite boogeymen. His crimson eyes glowed with malevolence as he watched Wick and his team enter. "So," Thrax said, his voice resonating like grinding metal, "the infamous John Wick. You've caused quite the disturbance." Wick stepped forward, his expression cold and unyielding. "You've made a mistake coming here. You underestimated us." Thrax chuckled, a deep, menacing sound. "Underestimated? No, Wick. I anticipated resistance. What I didn't anticipate was the arrogance of one man thinking he could defy the inevitable." "You talk too much," Wick replied, drawing his weapons. The room erupted into chaos as the battle began. Thrax fought with a brutal elegance, wielding advanced Imperial weaponry that seemed to defy physics. His movements were swift and calculated, his strikes devastating. But Wick was relentless. He countered with precision and adaptability, using every ounce of his training and experience to keep Thrax on the defensive. Meanwhile, the team held off waves of reinforcements. Zoe used the virus to disable enemy weapons, while Marcus provided covering fire. Sophia and her dogs engaged the boogeymen in close combat, their teamwork a testament to the bond they had forged. The duel between Wick and Thrax reached its climax as the two clashed in a final, desperate exchange. Wick, battered but unbroken, exploited a moment of overconfidence from Thrax. With a swift, decisive move, he drove his blade to the Empire's leader, ending his reign of terror. Thrax collapsed to his knees, his crimson eyes dimming. "You think this changes anything?" he rasped. Wick leaned in close. "It already has." The death of Thrax sent shockwaves through the Empire. Their fleet, leaderless and demoralized, began to retreat. Earth's forces seized the opportunity to press their advantage, driving the invaders out of the Sol system. The battle was won, but the cost was immense. Cities lay in ruins, and countless lives had been lost. As the dust settled, Wick stood amidst the wreckage of the eclipse. He was bloodied and exhausted, but his resolve remained unshaken. Humanity had faced the brink of annihilation and emerged victorious, not because of advanced technology or overwhelming numbers, but because of their indomitable spirit. In the weeks that followed, Earth began the arduous process of rebuilding. Wick, now a symbol of resilience and defiance, quietly returned to his solitude. He declined offers of recognition and leadership, choosing instead to fade into the shadows once more. But his legend lived on, inspiring generations to come. For humanity, the war was a reminder of their strength and unity. And for John Wick, it was a testament to the idea that even in the darkest of times, one person could make all the difference.